Donald Trump is now on trial in New York City, facing felony charges related to hush money payments he made to an adult film star back in 2016. Trump is now the first U.S. president to stand trial in a criminal case.
The last thing I want to do is put you in jail. You are the former president of the United States and possibly the next president as well. There are many reasons why incarceration is truly a last resort for me. But at the end of the day, I have a job to do. So as much as I do not want to propose a jail sanction, I will, if necessary. Will I?
You are watching State Line Media. Let us get started. In a federal courtroom, Trump reportedly threatened the judge after adverse rulings dismantled his defense strategy. A moment so legally reckless that even his own attorneys were left stunned. This was not frustration, but direct threats that would have gotten any ordinary person held in contempt on the spot. Yet, because it is Trump, it is playing out as another chapter in his ongoing legal difficulties. The sheer audacity of what happened is almost impossible to process. Think about what it means for someone who once occupied the Oval Office, who took an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, to stand in a federal courtroom and threaten the very judge who is supposed to be impartially administering justice under that same Constitution.
Judge has found former President Trump in contempt, saying that Trump violated a gag order in his criminal trial 9 times. That ruling comes with a $9,000 fine for the former president. Today, Trump's hush money trial will resume with testimony from the third prosecution witness, Gary Farrow. He is a banker who's helped Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, open accounts. Cohen used one of those accounts to buy the silence of porn star Stormy Daniels.
It is the kind of behavior you expect to see in countries with collapsing rule of law, not in the United States. And yet here we are watching it unfold in real time while Trump's legal and political situation continues to deteriorate with each passing day. Multiple eyewitnesses and court reporters have confirmed that Trump reacted very strongly when the judge handed down rulings that struck key elements of his defense and authorized further criminal investigation. The scene inside that courtroom was extraordinary. Lawyers scrambling to contain their client's outburst, security personnel moving into position ready to intervene if things escalated further.
Today, former President Donald Trump is facing another round of possible violations to a gag order in the hush money trial.
Ridiculous show trial, Biden trial, I call it.
Former President Trump on his way into a hearing about his public comments in that very hallway, sounding off once again.
We have a very conflicted judge, unfortunately.
Inside the courtroom, the prosecution focused mostly on comments Trump made last week.
The judge trying to maintain order while Trump apparently lost his composure and started making threats. It is the kind of courtroom episode that legal professionals will be discussing for years. What makes this so serious for Trump is that threatening a federal judge is not just bad optics or poor legal strategy. This is potentially criminal behavior that could result in immediate contempt charges. It could lead to additional criminal counts being added to his already extensive list of legal problems. It could result in heightened sentencing if he is ultimately convicted of anything, because judges always consider a defendant's conduct during proceedings when determining appropriate punishment.
The prosecution telling the judge, quote, the defendant thinks the rules are different for him, and about jail time, quote, because we prefer to minimize disruptions to this proceeding, we are not seeking jail. Also this morning, Trump addressed the protests on college campuses.
This is a movement from the left. These are radical left lunatics. We're not letting them take over the USA.
And it essentially guarantees that every judge who deals with Trump's cases going forward is going to be watching him closely. But here is what really makes the situation so significant. Even Trump's own attorneys and closest allies are reportedly stunned and concerned by what happened. These are people who have been defending Trump through everything. People who have seen him under enormous pressure and thought they understood how he operates. People whose entire professional reputation is tied to successfully representing this client. And even they are describing panic in Trump's camp after this courtroom incident. That tells you everything you need to know about how serious this is.
As far as I'm concerned, if you hate our country, if you're not happy here, you can leave. And that's what I say all the time. That's what I said in a tweet, which I guess some people think is controversial. A lot of people love it, by the way. A lot of people love it. But if you're not happy in the U.S., if you're complaining all the time, Very simply, you can leave. You can leave right now.
When your own lawyers are alarmed by your behavior, when your political allies are trying to figure out how to distance themselves from what you just did, when even the people whose job it is to make you look good are struggling to put a positive frame on this, you have crossed a line that probably should not have been crossed.
Here to explain the ruling and what possible criminal contempt charges would look like. Possible criminal contempt charges. What's this going to mean for the administration, and how would the Trump administration tackle it?
So let me be clear, this is unprecedented territory, so what I say, I give that with that caveat. It's something we thought we were barreling towards. What does it mean to hold the government in contempt? Well, you can't hold the government in contempt. You're not going to be able to hold the president in contempt, but if you talk about the immigration officers, if you talk about the attorneys, if you talk about the people who are backing this alleged, violation of a court order, those people could face potential fines.
We are talking about potential contempt charges that could be filed almost immediately. We are talking about restrictions on Trump's ability to appear in court or speak about ongoing cases. We are talking about judges in other cases looking at this behavior and deciding they need to be much stricter with Trump because he has demonstrated he does not respect the judicial process. The ripple effects from this one incident could make every single legal battle Trump is fighting significantly harder to win. The security response alone tells you how seriously this was taken by court officials. They increased security around the courthouse. They provided additional protection for the judge. These are not precautions you take because someone got a little upset. These are measures you implement when there is a genuine concern about potential intimidation. Think about what that means. A former president of the United States made threats serious enough that federal marshals and court security had to take action to protect a sitting federal judge. That is something that simply does not happen in a functioning democracy with respect for the rule of law. The judge admonished Trump during the hearing, warned his legal team about contempt and obstruction, and tried to restore order to proceedings that had gone off the rails. And Trump's response to being warned about his behavior was apparently to continue with more accusations about unfair treatment. It is like watching someone make their situation worse and worse while everyone around them is urging restraint. The self-destructive nature of this behavior is hard to comprehend unless you understand that Trump has spent his entire life rarely facing serious consequences for his actions, never having to back down or submit to authority, never accepting that there are institutions more powerful than he is. That mindset has finally run headlong into the federal judiciary, and the collision is extraordinary to witness. According to reports, this was supposed to be a routine hearing on evidentiary matters and procedural issues, the kind of thing that usually does not generate much attention or drama. But it turned into a serious setback for Trump's defense team as the judge systematically rejected their arguments and issued rulings that struck at the very heart of their legal strategy. The judge authorized further criminal investigation into areas that Trump has fought to keep secret, potentially including financial records, communications about classified documents, and interactions related to January 6th and election interference allegations. This is exactly what Trump's lawyers have been trying to prevent because they know that deeper investigation is going to uncover evidence that makes their job defending him significantly harder. The judge also struck key elements of Trump's defense, which suggests that arguments Trump was counting on to either dismiss charges or create reasonable doubt with a jury have been ruled inadmissible or legally insufficient. When your defense strategy gets undermined by pretrial rulings, you are in serious trouble because it limits your options at trial and makes conviction more likely. Trump apparently watched this happening in real time and realized just how difficult his situation was becoming, which triggered the outburst that is now dominating headlines and making everything worse. The specific nature of Trump's threats and accusations is crucial to understanding why this incident is so serious. According to eyewitnesses, Trump directly questioned the judge's impartiality and warned of consequences if rulings continue to go against him. Questioning a judge's impartiality in open court is not just disrespectful. It is an attack on the legitimacy of the entire judicial process and can be grounds for contempt. Every judge has to maintain the appearance of fairness and impartiality to preserve public confidence in the justice system. When a defendant stands up and essentially accuses the judge of bias or corruption, that is not protected speech. That is interference with the administration of justice. The warning about consequences is even more serious because it could be interpreted as an implicit threat of retaliation or intimidation. Federal judges are protected by law from threats and intimidation specifically because the justice system cannot function if judges are afraid to make decisions based on law and evidence. Trump's behavior crossed that line in a way that is going to have immediate legal consequences. Legal scholars are already discussing potential contempt charges, which could be filed as either civil or criminal contempt depending on how prosecutors and the judge want to proceed. Civil contempt is designed to compel compliance with court orders, while criminal contempt is designed to punish behavior that obstructs justice or shows disrespect for the court. Trump's conduct could easily justify criminal contempt charges, which would add yet another legal problem to his already extensive list of legal battles. The reaction from Trump's own attorneys during this incident tells you how unexpected and problematic his outburst was. These are experienced lawyers who have been through high-pressure situations before, who understand courtroom decorum and the importance of maintaining professional composure. And even they were apparently caught off guard by Trump's decision to directly confront the judge with threats and accusations. You can imagine the scene playing out in real time. Trump's lawyers probably trying desperately to calm him down, trying to redirect the conversation back to legal arguments, trying to minimize the damage while simultaneously processing the fact that their client just made their jobs infinitely harder. Because here's the thing about representing someone who threatens a judge. Every other judge who touches any of Trump's cases is now going to know about this incident. They are going to be on high alert for any similar behavior. They are going to be less inclined to give Trump the benefit of the doubt on procedural matters. They are going to be more willing to impose strict conditions and sanctions because Trump has demonstrated that he does not respect the judicial process. Trump's lawyers are probably having emergency meetings right now, trying to figure out how to address the damage, how to prevent contempt charges, how to convince other judges that this was an isolated incident that will not be repeated. But the reality is that you cannot undo this. The threat happened. It has been documented by court reporters and witnessed by multiple people, and it is now part of the permanent record that will follow Trump through every legal proceeding going forward. Beyond just the immediate contempt issues that Trump is facing, we need to understand how this moment of uncontrolled behavior is going to reverberate through every single legal battle he is currently fighting. Trump is facing criminal charges in multiple jurisdictions right now. He is dealing with civil lawsuits on numerous fronts. There are ongoing investigations that could result in additional charges. And every single one of these legal matters is now potentially impacted by what happened in that courtroom. Think about how prosecutors are going to view this incident. Prosecutors who might have been willing to negotiate plea deals or reduce charges are going to look at what Trump did and decide that he is not someone who can be trusted to comply with any agreement. Why would they offer leniency to someone who threatens judges? Why would they trust him to follow the terms of any negotiated resolution when he cannot maintain basic decorum during a hearing? Prosecutors are going to be less flexible, less willing to make accommodations, and more determined to secure a firm outcome. Consider how judges are going to respond. Judges who might have been inclined to show some flexibility or give Trump the benefit of the doubt on evidentiary disputes are going to be much more strict. Every judge in America is part of a professional community. They know each other. They respect each other. When a defendant threatens one of them, it affects how they all view that defendant going forward. The sentencing implications are also serious. If Trump is convicted of any criminal charges, the judge handling sentencing is absolutely going to consider his conduct toward the judiciary when determining appropriate punishment. Threatening a federal judge is exactly the kind of aggravating factor that results in harsher sentences because it demonstrates a lack of respect for the legal process and unwillingness to accept responsibility. Trump's lawyers have probably been telling him for months that he needs to show respect for the legal process, needs to appear cooperative, needs to avoid any behavior that could be seen as obstruction or intimidation. And Trump apparently disregarded all of that advice in one moment of frustration. In some cases, threatening a judicial officer could even be considered a basis for an upward departure from standard sentencing guidelines. Trump's lawyers know this. They have been trying to avoid anything that could be used against him at sentencing. And now their client has given prosecutors and judges a documented piece of evidence that he does not respect the court. That is going to have consequences if he ends up convicted of anything. The political fallout from this incident is going to be significant and will likely accelerate the erosion of Trump's remaining support. Republican allies who were already uncertain about whether to continue defending Trump now have to decide if they want to be associated with someone who threatens federal judges. That is a very difficult position for moderate voters and for anyone who cares about the rule of law and respect for institutions. The situation makes Trump look vindictive and out of control. It reinforces concerns about Trump being a threat to democratic norms and institutions. It gives his critics ammunition to argue that he is unfit for office and represents a danger to the constitutional order. Republican congressional leaders are going to face difficult questions as a result of this incident. If they condemn Trump, they risk angering his base. But if they defend or excuse his behavior, they appear to be tolerating threats against judges, which is politically damaging with moderate voters. The incident also undermines any remaining argument that Trump's legal troubles are just politically motivated. When you are threatening judges and losing control in courtrooms, it is very difficult to maintain that you are an innocent victim of an unfair system. The short answer on where this leaves Trump's overall legal situation and political prospects is that things just got significantly harder in ways that will be difficult to recover from. Trump was already facing serious challenges on multiple legal fronts, with courts rejecting his legal arguments, investigations accelerating, and his political support declining. Now he has added threatening a federal judge to the list of problems that his legal team has to manage. The immediate concern is whether contempt charges get filed and how quickly that happens. Contempt of court can be charged and adjudicated very quickly. We could see formal action within days if prosecutors and the judge decide to move forward. And contempt is one of those charges where the normal rules do not work quite the same way. If the judge witnessed the threatening behavior firsthand, if it is documented in the court record, the process of establishing contempt is relatively straightforward. Trump's usual strategy of delay does not work as well with contempt because judges have broad authority to impose immediate sanctions, including fines and even brief periods of detention for particularly serious conduct. The prospect of Trump facing contempt consequences is something that his legal team has to be absolutely concerned about because of how it would look and the precedent it would set. The restrictions that could be imposed on Trump as a result of this incident are potentially significant and could impact his ability to defend himself. Judges have the authority to impose gag orders, to restrict defendants from attending certain hearings, to require that future court appearances happen via video conference rather than in person. Trump has always relied on being able to shape public perception through media appearances and public statements. Losing that ability would be a significant blow to his strategy. And after threatening one federal judge, other judges are going to be much more willing to impose these kinds of restrictions because they have a legitimate basis to believe Trump poses a risk of intimidation or obstruction. We are watching in real time as the image of Trump shifts from former president and political leader to someone who cannot maintain composure in a legal setting. Threatening a federal judge is behavior that even Trump's most loyal supporters are going to have difficulty defending. It is one thing to criticize the system, to claim that investigations are politically motivated. It is another thing entirely to directly threaten the people who are supposed to be impartially administering justice. Legal experts who have been following Trump's cases are saying this incident is a significant moment that changes how everyone involved in these proceedings is going to approach Trump going forward. Prosecutors are going to be less willing to negotiate or show flexibility. Judges are going to be more strict about enforcing rules and imposing sanctions. Even Trump's own lawyers are going to be more cautious about the advice they give and the strategies they pursue because they now know their client is capable of undermining their work with impulsive behavior. The professional reputation of lawyers associated with Trump's defense is on the line, and continuing to represent someone who threatens judges is going to make it harder for them to be taken seriously in other legal matters. This is the kind of incident that makes lawyers start thinking seriously about their obligations and the limits of what they can manage on behalf of a client who will not control himself in court. Every single court appearance now becomes a high-stakes moment where everyone is watching to see if Trump can maintain composure or if he is going to have another outburst. That is an enormous amount of pressure. Courts are environments where Trump has no real ability to control the narrative. He cannot use his platform to change the facts of what happened. He is just another defendant who has to follow the rules and accept the authority of the court, which is something Trump has never been comfortable doing. The more cornered he feels, the more likely he is to act out in ways that make his situation worse. We could be looking at a cycle where each legal setback triggers worse behavior, which triggers more sanctions and restrictions, which makes him feel even more desperate, which triggers even worse behavior. The courtroom outburst and threats against the judge are evidence that Trump is feeling increasingly under pressure, and people under that kind of pressure make poor decisions, which is exactly what we are witnessing. Threatening a federal judge is not just bad strategy. It is potentially criminal conduct that exposes Trump to immediate contempt charges and makes every future legal proceeding significantly harder to manage. The incident demonstrates a serious difficulty in accepting the constraints of the rule of law, accelerates the erosion of his political support, and may be remembered as a key turning point in his legal battles. Here is the thing about the justice system that Trump seems to have overlooked. It is designed to be resilient. It is designed to withstand pressure from powerful people. Judges have tools to respond to this kind of behavior, and they are not reluctant to use those tools. What we are seeing now is the justice system responding to someone who believes he is above the law, and that response is going to be firm. Trump has finally encountered an institution that will not be intimidated, that will not give him special treatment because of who he is, and his reaction to that reality has been to act out in ways that only make his situation worse. The most concerning aspect of all of this is what it reveals about Trump's current state of mind. Someone who threatens a federal judge is not thinking clearly. Someone who cannot control their emotions in a courtroom setting is not capable of making good decisions under pressure. Trump is clearly feeling the walls closing in, and people in that position sometimes make very poor decisions, which is exactly what we are witnessing. The question now is whether Trump's behavior is going to continue to escalate, and that is a question we have to take seriously given what we have just witnessed. Threatening a federal judge is potentially criminal conduct that exposes Trump to immediate contempt charges and makes every future legal proceeding significantly harder to manage. The incident demonstrates a serious unwillingness to accept the constraints of the rule of law, will accelerate the erosion of his political support, and may be remembered as the moment when his legal situation became truly unmanageable. For more breaking news and in-depth coverage, like and subscribe to Stateline Media. Thanks for watching.